Hey guys, I'm Adam Sparks. This is Tyler Whetstone of KnoxNews.com. We're here at the Greenville Federal Courthouse where we just finished up the preliminary injunction hearing, state of Tennessee and the state of Virginia also, but primarily the state of Tennessee versus the NCAA. This is over name, image, and likeness benefits for athletes, NIL to all you guys out there. A couple of points that you guys are going to be interested in. One is sort of the NIL nationwide, if NIL is going to continue. But we're going to talk about UT first, because a lot of people care about how this has something to do with UT and the current investigation the NCAA has there on campus. Tyler, I thought it was interesting. I was a little surprised by the fact that there was so much language in the argument on the AG's part, on their attorneys, that Tennessee was brought up so much. Mm-hmm. In the opening argument, the attorney Cam Norris for the Attorney General side said, after the Gators, meaning Florida, after the Gators, the Vols are next. In other words, NCAA investigations into NIL, first at Florida, now at Tennessee. He did mention that it was very doubtful that Tennessee would be sanctioned by the NCAA investigation, and they cited the case that they're probably going to win in this. But I was just surprised that Tennessee, throughout this 70-minute hearing, the University of Tennessee was brought up a lot. Josh Heupel was the coach, Jackson Lampley the player. They have filed declarations in this case. UT was Danny White, the athletic director. Were you surprised that UT was so much part of this conversation in the courtroom?
I think that it's tough to ignore that this doesn't get filed without the University of Tennessee getting those, at least the impression the NCAA is going to drop the hammer again. And so, but yeah, I think it was a little different, a little unusual probably. The state, Tennessee and Virginia, there are a lot of D1 schools in Tennessee and Virginia. This isn't just about the University of Tennessee, just the University of Tennessee is the one that's kind of stuck its head up, and it was recognized several times in the court hearing.
Yeah, I mean, the Attorney General mentioned that he had gotten the signal once it came to light that there was an NCAA investigation into UT over NIL. That gave him the signal that, okay, now I'm going to sue.
Time to go.
And so you can see the connection between UT and this lawsuit. They're different things, but they're certainly connected. We're not allowed to speak in a federal courthouse, obviously. We're in the gallery. We're onlookers. You're not allowed to speak, but there was a little bit of a giggle that I picked up on, certainly from where we were sitting, when the NCAA attorney mentioned that he knew nothing of an NCAA investigation. He didn't know of anything of one leaked. He didn't have any information on it. He could not confirm or deny that there was one. I mean, KnoxNews.com, he doesn't have a subscription. If he did, he would know that there was one going on. But I thought that was interesting that he cited the fact that I don't know what's going to happen at UT. I don't know why they're arguing that NIL, any of these rules could hurt UT, because I'm not even aware of an investigation. Yeah. You had a little chuckle over that, right?
There's a small bit of chuckle. And he also got a chuckle from me later on when he seemed to kind of mess up some of the rules of the NCAA. The judge kind of went back and asked him specifically about a couple different rules, and you may be able to explain a little better, but as it relates to NIL, and he struggled.
Yeah, I mean, so much of what the conversation is around NIL is we don't understand the rules. Athletes don't understand the rules. The rules have changed over the past 2.5 years since NIL has been allowed. And the judge asked the NCAA attorney, sort of, can you explain the difference in, so first off, you're not allowed in NCAA rules to negotiate what your NIL value is going to be. You can't go to a school and say, this school is giving me $100,000. Can you guys give me $150,000? You can't do that. That's not allowed. But you can engage in conversations about NIL, and you can investigate what your potential value would be, but you can't negotiate. You can't accept bids. You can't talk about exact dollar figures. So this has always been an issue with the NIL rules, that you can't distinguish between what is that, well then what's allowed and what's not allowed. And during the hearing, the NCAA attorney tried to make this distinction, and the judge, forget how he said it, but it defies common sense in how you're trying to distinguish between these two. So, I mean, that jumped out to me. I think that jumped out to everybody in the gallery, that the same issue that has been going on for the past 2.5 years, which are what are NIL rules, the attorneys for the NCAA couldn't quite distinguish them in front of a judge.
Sure.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be the problem with all these rules. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of what we're here for today. This is a big case, a big lawsuit. It's probably going to go months, may go years in the appeals. But what we're here for today is an injunction. Now, an injunction would mean, if granted, NIL rules stop. They're frozen.
Yep. Until the end of the case.
Until the end of the case.
Correct.
That's right. And what the state of Tennessee is arguing is that you have to stop NIL rules right now, Judge. You got to end them right now because there is irreparable harm being done, like right now. You can't wait till the case happens. And the temporary restraining order was denied because the judge said, well, you're just talking about money, monetary losses. You can recoup that later. So he came back to the state of Tennessee and he said, what else can you argue? What other harm could be done, like today, next week, if I don't grant this? And I picked up on two things.
Yeah,
and you may have picked it. Leverage of recruits, meaning you would get more money if you could be in a bidding war.
Sure. Free market.
Free market, that's right. Leverage of recruits, you can never recoup that. You have it now, you may not have that same leverage once you enroll at a school.
They would say that you don't have that leverage anymore. As soon as you sign, you lose all leverage to be able to guarantee yourself the biggest payout that you could get.
Which is fair, yeah. I mean, if you're a 5-star recruit, you have all the leverage in the world. But if you can't talk specifically about numbers between school A, B, and C, you really don't know how high the number could go.
Correct.
You can never recoup that leverage. Number two was perception of the university. Fans are going to care about this. And I'm going to write about this actually in KnoxNews once we get done with this live feed, is that the perception of UT is that it's cheating. That's the perception. And whether Tennessee is or isn't cheating, UT, it's really determined on how the NCAA translates their own rules. And the argument of the state is that this is hurting UT right now. And if this case goes several months, they can never recoup the perception that they lost. Is that sort of what you picked up?
And not just that, because this isn't just about the University of Tennessee, but it's that central argument that the university brings so much value and so much revenue to the state of Tennessee, $500 million is what they said, that it then impacts the state of Tennessee, and then that's not fair, obviously, for the state. So I think it was interesting too. One of the arguments that the AG's side made was the NCAA, when they're setting out and they're thinking about their March Madness TV package, and they say, okay, we want CBS, we want True TV, we want TBS, we want all these people, but let's go ahead and agree to a deal, and then we'll talk money later. And that just doesn't make sense. That's not how business works, and that's not how the free market works. And I think that that's the point here, is that you have athletes who are in that scenario. They have all the goods. They have the ability to do what people pay to play, or to pay to come watch, rather, and without the ability to negotiate, without the ability to be able to take your offer and compare it to Adam's offer, then it's not a free market, and that's against the antitrust.
An argument, if they had asked all the sports writers in the room to add an argument to the AG, we could have added one more, and I thought of this during the hearing, is that negotiations in NIL already happen. They happen right now. It's maybe a sheet of paper slid across the table or a whisper in the ear or something, but these already happen at most schools right now against what the NCAA would see as against their rules. So I think the irreparable harm also could be that you're sort of playing Russian roulette. You have the risk of breaking NIL rules even though everybody is breaking them. The rules are so vague that you could break them, not know that you break them. I think that's the irreparable harm too, is that everybody is sort of doing things like that, and you run the risk of breaking rules that probably shouldn't be in place anyway, or at least should be like defined more than they are. So I'm sure people at home want to know if UT fans showed up at this. I talked to a few. There's a handful behind the camera, and you can see it on my Twitter. There's a crane with a huge Power T flag. So there was a presence here. UT had 5 or 6 people from the administration, from the actual university that were here, some attorneys, general counsel. So there was a little UT presence, but there was not a fiasco.
No fiasco, which I think would have caused more harm than necessary.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the NCAA had even in one of their briefs, had mentioned that you know, if you let this injunction go through, if it's granted, you know, it'll be a fiasco in college sports. And if there had been people, fans here, you know, with beer helmets on and pom-poms and all that, that probably would have, you know, helped the NCAA's case. But there wasn't. It was civil, and it was a good hearing. I learned a lot about the law, and I'm sure I will continue to learn more about the law. That's some of what you already know. Is there anything you want to add, Tyler, before we cut it off?
No, I think we'll just wait. The judge has all the time in the world to make his decision. He's not under any pressure to release it 5 minutes from now or 2 weeks from now or however long. So KnoxNews will have it when it comes down. We'll be ready and see what he says. He'll either deny the injunction, he'll keep it as it is. He'll accept the injunction, which will pretty well ban NIL rules nationwide. Or there's a way where he could kind of massage it in a way. He could parse the two in a way to make the state of Tennessee and Virginia happy. But A.G. Scrimetti would say, listen, if you're not going to do it nationwide, then what are you doing? Because it's an unfair competitive balance for anyone else. Then at that point, it would be. So we're expecting probably a thumbs up or a thumbs down from the judge, Judge Clifton Corker, and when that comes, we don't know yet.
And maybe I should have led with this. UT fans, if you want the NCAA to stop investigating your school for NIL, you want the injunction granted, which means NIL rules freeze, which means NCAA can't really investigate and enforce those rules.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want it granted. If you're a UT fan, you want the NCAA off your campus. But we'll see. Well, we may know in a few hours, may know in a few days, maybe in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Probably more to the latter. So anyway, I'm Adam Sparks. He's Tyler Whetstone here at the Greenville